It didn't go down the path of, oh yeah, just because they live in this blue zone or they eat this particular thing, so they chewed tobacco when they were 27 upside down for 3 months, and that's what made them centenarians. Like, fuck up. That's wrong. Like, there's not enough. There's so many other factors, and at least he balanced it really well. And the talk of genotypes and phenotypes and everything else through that, I was like, yeah, man, I've heard it in bits and bobs, but the way he summarized it was awesome. Mia Mortalites, welcome back to another book review. You have one here, and it's in fact a book lessons, book summarizations. We've got Peter Attia's Outlive, Science and Art of Longevity. Now, I have already gone through the book review, so if you haven't done that, stop, go check it out, then come back. Now we can have a conversation. Cool. Awesome. We're good. Yep, you've checked it. Beautiful. Let's get going. I've, as always, tabbed quite a few of these pages. This book is no exception. It was quite great, as you would have seen from my book review. I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. The process that I want to go through here basically is I'm just going to call out these tabs. I'll read out a little bit of a script of it from the text. I'll talk about it. You'll enjoy it. You'll love it. You'll comment. You'll like. You'll send me a message. You'll send a Boostergram. All the good things, and we'll all be happy. Yep. Immortalites, we're ready. Let's go. First one that I've got here listed down. Let me just move this a little bit further away. It is... So the first tab that I wrote down was Peter talking about the type 2 diabetes. And it was a perfect example of just, I guess, how wrong Medicine 2.0, existing medicines, getting it so wrong. Now, as a whole big chunk here, but I'll just minute it down. Now, it's talking about the standard of care treatment guidelines for the American Diabetes Association. It specifies that a patient can be diagnosed with diabetes mellitus when they return a hemoglobin A1C test result, blah, 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 corresponding to an average blood glucose level of 140 milligrams per deciliter. Normal is more like 100 milligrams. So just to give you an idea. But in this particular test, if it comes back at 86.4% or higher, which is a blood glucose of 137 milligrams per deciliter, so just 3 points lower, then all of a sudden, you don't have type 2 diabetes at all, and you can't, in fact, go and do anything, which I guess in particular was the medication that you could go in, which is metformin or some sort of annual monitoring. Now, I called this out because it was just a really easy, clear example on how existing protocols are very black and white. There's no maybe in the gray area. Now, this doesn't have to apply to everything, and maybe it doesn't. I don't actually know. But the call out there from Peter, and I guess the learning that I took from that was, yeah, wow, there's so many things in existing medicine that, you know, should you just be slightly off. This could be with your testosterone levels. Again, any levels. I'm not going to go into it. However many different ones. You know, it could be the difference between like, oh, wow, yeah, you're elevated enough and you should be doing something about it, to, nah, you'll be fine. But you're like a whisker away from being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, which you should be doing something. So, you know, if it was you and you were a whisker away from being diagnosed with, you know, whatever it may be, wouldn't you go, man, I probably should start doing something about it, right? Like, you know, if you had something crushing your head and it was, you know, the difference is, oh, your brain's squashed, you're gone, sorry. Or you're like this far away from your brain being squashed, being gone. I think you still want to do something about that, right? You know, if it's pretty far away, if it, you know, if the pincer or something and it's pretty far away, okay, whatever, you don't have to do so much. But if it's crushing it, you're about to go, you want to do something about it. So I just like there was a lot of detail there in this particular one, but the learning I took away from it was like, oh yeah, there's some stuff broken with Medicine 2.0. Makes sense. The second learning that I wrote or noted down here was something that I didn't really know. Again, someone fact check me if this is wrong or right. Or indeed, fact check Peter Attia. But he says, the trouble began with Hippocrates. Most people are familiar with the ancient Greeks' famous item, first, do no harm. It succinctly states that the physician's primary responsibility, which is to not kill our patients or do anything that might take the condition worse instead of better. Makes sense. There are only 3 problems with this. Hippocrates never actually said these words. 2, it's sanctimonious bullshit. And C, it's unhelpful on multiple levels. And he actually does have a note of the words first do no harm did not appear in Hippocrates' actual writings. He urged physicians to practice 2 things in your dealings with disease. Either help or do no harm to the patient. This was changed to first do no harm by an aristocratic 19th century British surgeon named Thomas Inman, whose other claim to fame was, well, nothing. Somehow it became the sacred motto of the medical profession for all of eternity. I just thought that was interesting. I don't know if that's 100% accurate. He seems to be backing up with some information, so I'll take his word that it is accurate. But I have heard first harm from Hippocrates quite a lot. I've heard it, I've seen it in a lot of places. Interesting that it was just perhaps not actually true. But the other thing is Peter isn't afraid to go. It's unhelpful on multiple levels, and it's something is bullshit. I went, damn, this dude's willing to tackle. One, he's called it out as not, actually being from Hippocrates. But two, he's going to call it out, even though that's something that many other people wouldn't. Kind of goes to what Peter is like. But also, I found it interesting and made me go yeah, man, I want to read more of this. I think he's going to tell me what he really thinks. The third one that I noted down here was in relation to the life extension and what would you do to mimic centenarians. Or the people who are living 100 years plus. So he says, because we are probing a more relevant question, can we, through our behaviors, somehow reap the same benefits as centenarians get for free via the genes? Or to put it more technically, which I love, can we mimic the centenarians' phenotype, the physical traits that enable them to resist disease and survive for so long, even if we lack their genotype? Is it possible to outlive our own life expectancy if we are smart and strategic and deliberate about it? I noted this one just in the sense of how in other books, they don't generally kind of interact with the genetic predisposition of some people to be centenarians just because phenotypically they're going to be able to. Peter went into quite a bit of detail around what we can do from a genotype perspective. We're with our genotype, with the environmental factors to try to mimic and get closer to those centenarians. I noted because a whole section around centenarians was really balanced. It didn't go down the path of, just because they live in this blue zone and they eat this particular thing, so they chew tobacco when they were 27 upside down for 3 months, and that's what made them centenarians. Fuck up. That's wrong. There's not enough. There's so many other factors. And at least he balanced it really well in the talk of genotypes and phenotypes and everything else through that. I was like, yeah, man, I've heard it in bits and bobs, but the way you summarized it was awesome again. So it sounds like I'm fanboying on Peter, and it's worth it. The fourth one here that I noted down, I noted it because, and I kind of made reference to this in the book review, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit more in detail here with the learnings, which was it's chapter 8, the crisis of abundance. Now, he has a big story here, and the story is to demonstrate, I believe, because this is around can our ancient genes cope with our modern diet, and it was to do with sugar affecting the liver. I believe it was the liver. Yeah, I think so. Yes, affecting the liver and the dangers around that. And the story is about when he was actually in hospital, not he himself, but actually supporting someone who was in hospital, and the belief that this particular patient had they must be drinking alcohol because of the liver damage that they're seeing, but actually it was due to something else, and all of this, right? There's the background scientifically as to why, but I call it out because I go, the way that he wrote this particular chapter, or the start of the chapter, almost read like a fiction book. It kept me wanting to know till the very end. That does not happen easily in a book that is about science and longevity. So take a leaf. If you're writing out there a longevity book or a science book, you haven't read this particular chapter 8, page 88, 89, that particular story, man, that was well worth the read. And he does this multiple times throughout the book. So I just really wanted to call that out because it was just really well informed. Another one, not too many pages further on, this was a little actual figure, which I just went it's quite interesting. And maybe you mere mortals out there are beyond the mere mortals that you understood this or you know about this. I did not, so I'm going to call it out. In this figure, he's talking about the uncoupling of the obesity from metabolic health. So uncoupling the obesity to metabolic health. And so what does that mean? So that particular figure, I was showing it on the video as well, I'll kind of demonstrate it, was just trying to demonstrate that you can have, this is American, 108 million people obese. On the other side, you got another circle, 150 million people are not obese. Cool, okay, lots of non-obese people, makes sense. But then there's a Venn diagram between the two of them where another circle that is kind of going across the two of them. On the left-hand side, you've got people who are obese and have metabolic syndrome, and that's about 67 million people, so 62% of that group. But then you'll have the non-obese, but still has metabolic syndrome, and there's 33 million. Now, that's 22%. But so if you think about that, often, I guess, as a mere mortal or an individual, you'll go, okay, well, if I'm obese or that person's obese, there's more likelihood, I guess you would say, or maybe more prevalence, that there would be also metabolic syndrome issues. Metabolic syndrome issues here being, did he describe it in any clear way in this particular page? No, but he does describe it in the book. So the book will have it, right? Go Google it, metabolic syndrome. But what was interesting, I guess, for me in this one was you can also find non-obese people who have metabolic syndrome, aka they cannot process insulin and the sugar properly, and they're still not looking fat, right? They're skinny. And I went, damn, maybe I knew it in the recess of my mind, but I didn't kind of capture it as powerfully as when I was reading this particular chapter around the abundance crisis, which is, just the abundance of the food that we eat. So for that, I'm calling it out because it was quite interesting. Second last one that I've got here, I can open a page. It was about the last one. It's around the humble egg. And I'm putting this one together for specifically my mom and dad out there and probably other people in the generation around this, because I mention this at least 10 times a year, let's just say, and it could be for a few other things. So let me say this full chapter. The humble egg, in particular, was singled out in a 1968 proclamation by the American Heart Association, accused of causing heart disease because of its high cholesterol content. Goddamn egg. It has remained a nutritional purgatory for decades, even after reams of research papers showing the dietary cholesterol and particularly egg consumption may not have much to do with heart disease at all. Now, it says may. Eating lots of saturated fat can increase levels of atherosclerosis, causing lipoproteins in blood, but most of the actual cholesterol that we consume in our foods ends up being excreted out our backsides. The vast majority of the cholesterol in our circulation is actually produced by our own cells. Nevertheless, US dietary guidelines warned Americans away from consuming foods in high cholesterol for decades, and nutrition labels still inform American consumers about how much cholesterol is contained in each serving of packet foods. It's not only for America, there's a lot of other Western countries, including Australia. Bottom line is, a lot of these things came out, right, 1960s, 70s, 80s. There's a lot of proven things out there that people paid people off. Doctors were just told to say certain things, and they did. Either it could be dodgy studies, it could be other things. Bottom line is, eggs and a few other products and foods out there just got a bad rap, right? And it just remained a test of time. So individuals who grew up in that time, that's what you would have known. That's what you've gotten told in the media, on the news, and the information that you're getting. But it's not actually true. Now, Peter did a really good job, I would say, across the book in trying to call out a lot of these things. One of the other learnings as well that I took from the book, and it's just a general one, was his ability to balance both the extremist views. You can have really extreme views, whether it's when it comes to food, especially food, because he was like, man, I hate talking about nutrition. But you can have some really extreme views on fitness. You can have extreme views on fitness, food, eating, consumption, your sleeping, everything. You can have extreme views. The meta takeaway from me as well was just the balance of ideas and thoughts to provide just the context of where it either came from, like the Hippocrates quote, whether it's true or not, right? There's some foundational knowledge, and then you can make a determination from that on what your tactical approach is. That's probably the meta learning that comes out from Outlive, from Peter Attia, which is weird because it's more about longevity, but kind of took away more the ability to balance ideas at the extremes and provide a really contextual and informative set of sentences in the book. So that has been Outlive by Peter Attia. That is my learnings that I took away. Have you read this book? Have you taken away some learnings? Did you like it? No, you didn't. You actually loved it. But if you hated it, tell me why you hated it. Again, I'll challenge you on a one-to-one duel on who can outlive the longest. So I'll see you in about 120 years. You probably won't be there. But for now, mere mortals, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you have been well. I hope you have been eating well, training, outliving, making sure that you're doing all the things in this book if you've actually read it. And if you haven't, go read it because I really would recommend it. Do all the good things. Share this podcast. Go send it off to a friend. Go listen to it again. Just put it on repeat. Listen. Send the boostergram if you want to. It's a message attached with some sats across 2 hours. You can do it all on the good podcasting platforms. For now, the Immortal Lights. Man, is it good to be back in the new studio. Looks pretty good. I am enjoying it. The Immortal Lights. 1.